Talal Abu-Ghazaleh, a Palestinian-Jordanian, who is founder of the Talal Abu-Ghazaleh Organization. Talal, thank you so much indeed for your time. Look, I believe probably you've seen all of this before because, of course, we had the Arab Spring in 2010, 2011. But what's your overall impression of what's happening in many Middle Eastern countries right now?
I think what we are seeing is a global phenomena. It's not an Arab phenomena specifically. This, I have my studies, my reading of the situation based on my knowledge of the internet and its power. What I claim is that what is happening is an era of internet governance or lack of governance, which enables a very small group in any community, and not in the Arab world. It's happening in Europe, it's happening in South America, it's happening in Hong Kong, all over the world. The focus on the Arab region is wrong. In this age, and I am now focusing on a particular study by a research center in the US, talking about the death of democracy. Democracy as it has been developed is now under question. And look at somebody who is, for example, on the streets in Lebanon, and he speaks addressing the president of the Republic of Lebanon, saying, Mr. President, you asked us to form a delegation to negotiate with you. But why should we negotiate with you? We are the power, we are the people. We decide and you listen to us and do what we want. Okay, granted, people are the source of power. But there must be a way, a method of conveying the wish of the people. There is no one person in a demonstration on the streets of any country who can say, I represent the people of this country. The enabling power of the internet is forcing the need for another system of communicating the wish of the people and in implementing that wish. And I say that, unfortunately, this is going to happen everywhere in the world. We are seeing it in Europe. We are going to see more of it all over the world, including America. You look at the people who elected, for example, the President of the United States of America. They elected him democratically. Now, the census says that more than 50% don't want their government. And all of these who are revolting against their regime have elected their regimes. You elect a regime democratically, and the next day you say, down with the regime. So the question, the big question, and that most of the time we look at the street and refuse to see the forest. The forest is that the world needs a new system of governance and a new system of government in the countries, and a governance on the internet, which has been abused. It takes 1% who are very active on the internet to start a revolution anywhere in the world. I have chaired the UN ICT task force in 2001, which wrote the strategies of the world. And I tried to have some kind of governance to control the abuse of the internet. And when I was elected again at the UN as the chairman of the Coalition for ICT for Development, I called and hosted the first UN meeting on internet governance. And we established the Internet Governance Forum, which still meets annually. I chaired the first meeting, and I founded it, and we started talking about how can we develop, not government, governance systems, procedures, rules, so that you do not assassinate characters of people, so that you don't destroy the will or the beliefs of a society, so that you do not attack religious or political figures unreasonably or with abusive words. There must be, of course, the US of America says, and they have the right to say this because it is their ownership, The internet is owned, produced, and managed by the United States. They say this is another world, there are no boundaries, no jurisdiction, and you cannot establish any control on it. I don't want to control it. And I told the colleagues who objected to me at the meeting that we are not asking for rules or controls. We're asking for a system of governance in order that we add the ethical standards to the internet.
Talal, I think that point that you raise about how democracy is failing people could be allied to democracy and how it works with capitalism and how it's certainly not taking care of the majority of populations around the world. But let's specifically look at what's happening around the Middle East and North Africa. People are saying that their economies have been mismanaged. How have those economies been mismanaged? Is it possible to generalize across countries?
This is not, again, I'm sorry, I have to repeat that those governments who have been mismanaging, if they are, and I'm not in a position to judge every government in the region, if they are mismanaging, they were elected by the people who are now asking for their downfall. So the problem is with the system of government and the system of election. I mean, and that should be the solution. We always try to focus on the symptoms and on the problem rather than on solutions. This will go on, these demonstrations. The populist movement in Europe, you have seen what the populist movement is doing. There is now a reversal of the tendency or the trend for internationalization, for nationalization, and for the principles of democracy. So whether this particular government or that is on the right track or has been abusing, this is not the question today. The question is to stop this. To stop it, we need to develop a new system that would not allow it to happen again, that I elect you today and I ask for your downfall tomorrow. I've been elected democratically. If I'm being elected democratically and you believe in democracy, you cannot tell me the next day we don't want you.
Okay, so if the systems have to change and there is to be change, then the question becomes, will the elite accept that change? Because the accusation against the elite, both political and economic, as we were saying earlier in the program, from the people on the streets, is that the elite are only interested in taking care of themselves. Do you think they will accept change willingly?
No, sir. Yes, absolutely. For example, these are two separate issues. The issue of whether there is a need for change, for addressing corruption, etc., is one. And the need is for what process do we use to do this is another thing. I don't think that the world who is focusing on the issue of what the people are revolting for. Okay, you see 100, 200,000 people on the streets, but I cannot accept that they represent 90% of the community. Probably they represent 1, 2, 3, 5%. But because they're vocal, they are violent, they're aggressive, they are heard. And the silent majority is not heard. It is wrong to focus and believe and want me to believe as a citizen. And I'm a citizen, I'm not a politician. I'm a professional in the business market. It's wrong to make me believe that if somebody shouts loud in front of your camera and says downfall with the regime, this is a corrupt regime, that I have to listen to him and follow him. Okay, corruption is all over the world, in every country in the world, in different stages. In one speech I made at the UN Assembly, I said, you, the West, who accuse the countries, particularly the developing countries, of corruption, you are the corrupter, and you are worse than the corrupted. Somebody who corrupts a leader in this part of the world, he is to blame more than the person who has been corrupted, because he is the provoker. He is the person who instigated the corruption. So please let us go and stop self-persecution and try to look at the problem at its roots and in real wisdom and for the sake of the people and not for the sake of the few who are on the street, rightfully or wrongly, because you cannot say that they represent my point of view.
Talal, if I were to ask you where is the hope and how hopeful you are that the change that the people want is coming, I expect that you'll bat me away again because you seem to be an extremely practical person. You don't seem to want to address these ideas that people have which are theoretical desires. I mean, obviously, they want concrete solutions, but as you say, they're only on the streets and they're shouting.
No, I disagree. I think you are. I think you're trying to mislead me. I think you're trying to mislead me in the wrong direction.
No, not at all.
Do you have a way to convince me that what a certain group is shouting about represents 100% of the people? There is no way.
Okay, but if we take the example of Lebanon, which has a sovereign debt, which, when you relate it to GDP, is the third most severe sovereign debt crisis in the world in terms of having to repay, the people must be saying on the streets, like, hold on, we've known that we've had this debt, and you were trying to instigate some sort of economic reforms, but rather than go after the people who could probably afford to pay more taxes, you're going after everyday people, so we're angry about that.
My friend, can you tell me would you please kindly listen to me? How can you explain to this man on the street who said, I don't want to negotiate with the president, I only order him to do what he does? Does he have the power of attorney from every person in the country? Does he have the mandate? And if he does, what is his unanimously accepted program? Is there one person or group who can say, I represent the conscience, the will, and everybody's wish in this country? There is no person. What we need to spend time on discussing, and this is what strategic centers and research centers are doing, what kind of system of democracy we need in the future to move in the internet age into a better and most representative way of having our governments.
Very interesting to hear your points of view, Talal. Thank you so much indeed. Talal Abu-Ghazaleh joining us to look at how possibly there could be some sort of solution.
Thank you for giving me the chance. Thank you for giving me this chance. I know that I am speaking out of tune, out of order, and out of what everybody wants me to say. But I have learned in this life that I have to tell the truth, whether people like it or not. We are not addressing the issue. When somebody in the streets of Beirut says, Mr. President, I give you orders and you do what I want, that explains it all, that there is no way of developing the conscience, the will, the national aspirations of the country by any individual or a group of individuals, and there is no way of how to implement it with the government. That has to be addressed. We need a system, a development of the democratic process to address an age in which the internet has such power that a person can change a whole world view because of his power on influencing opinion on the internet.
Talal, nothing is out of tune. We always appreciate a frank and open debate. Thank you so much indeed.